Yo, yo.
Okay, good night, good night, good night. Welcome to the Fatherhood Think Tank. It's the 90 to 60 minutes of intellectual conversation for fathers, with fathers, about fathers. Tonight we're doing a makeup show. We sort of kind of makeup show, but it was already in the book. But we took the vacation day for Veterans Day, and we were going to have a show Veterans Day that was all about us, people who have veterans who are fathers and fathers who are in the military, and that's something that's really big part of my favorite veteran is my dad is the topic. So again, I'm Dr. Ron Osborne Williams, the Fatherhood Think Tank curator. We have we have our band here. We have our band of brothers who are here. Probably, a lot of people probably are already on their way to their, making their maneuvers to go to their Thanksgiving and being thankful. So I thought it was a great idea to just keep this show. We can run into, thinking about our favorite veteran, but I know that'll lead us into our favorite father and what we're thankful about our father. So we'll figure how we'll work that out. Um, let me just introduce the fathers who are here, and then I'm gonna do a couple of commercials, and then we'll get right into the conversation. Good night, fellas. Long time. Well, only a week. Well, only a couple of days no see for me and Lightborn, but uh, good night and welcome.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Ed Tenney. I am a transitioning to a single dad. I have three adult children ranging in ages, um, they're getting older, 31 to 37. And I have a grandbaby out west and a grandbaby that is on the way. Um, she is going to be our Christmas gift. She's scheduled to be born on the 25th. So,
Oh wow, 30 days from now.
Congratulations, Teeny.
Yeah,
thank you.
Uh,
congrats.
Thank you.
yeah, that is definitely it would definitely truly be a joy to the world.
Yes.
When your grandbaby come and then I said I made a song. But well, good afternoon. I mean, good evening, gentlemen rather. My name is Lionel Lightborn. I'm the father to a tribe of seven young adults, three young women, four young men, one of which is going to get married around the Christmas holidays. They're on 27th, destination wedding in the Bahamas, and two grandchildren. And so it's just always a pleasure to be here. I'm sorry I missed last week's show. It was very exciting. I was able to hear most of it, but I couldn't chime in because my Android just wasn't agreeing with me. But y'all had a great show, so thank you guys for holding it down.
Yeah, very good. I just want to remind people that we are a sponsor, and you can't have any show, can't have anything without people that support you. These guys are supportive, and they're here for the show. But we have people behind the scenes who kind of keep support us and keep us going. Let's start first with our Fort Lauderdale Bros. That's the Zeta Chi chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fort Lauderdale. Um, uh, uh, from the beginning sponsor of the Fatherhood Think Tank. They were there to say, "Hey, we're here to do whatever, and be a part, be help what needs to be done. And if we ever needed anything, really, we could always go to them and get that kind of support." Then our big dog sponsor is JAG Attorney at Law, Miami Dade, Broward, West Palm Beach. If you're trying to look for an attorney, I suggest, hey, and if you're in the South Florida area, JAG Attorney at Law, Johnny A. Gaspar Esquire. You can reach him at j.gaspar at jag1law.com or his phone number at 305 827-8087. If you want to see what type of law he practices and different uh, litigations, you can go to his website at www.jag1law.com. Those are our sponsors of the Fatherhood Think Tank. If you want to be a sponsor of the Fatherhood Think Tank, hey, we welcome that. If you want to be a member, you want to come in and participate, there's nothing. There's no, what do you call it? No entry fee, no nothing. Just that you log on, come onto the platform and speak your piece and be able to talk about fatherhood based from your own experience about whatever our topics is. And how about this? If you have topics, I say this to people all the time. If you have topics, you have ideas that you might want to hear fathers talk about, click it on there and drop us a message in one of the chat groups or on one of the pages, and we will definitely get that out there and utilize that as much as possible. So let me go directly before we get into the topic. I just want to have first I want to tell like Born, I had a great time with you this weekend. We had a great time celebrating you and your wife's anniversary with you guys. It was, a special time that that you came all the way up to Orlando, and we was able to spend that time. And I think this is a part of what I think is important when you think about this whole part of fatherhood and how fatherhood is important, that you have people that can support you in positive ways, and these kind of ways. Like there's always a way to, and we had some good conversations. We've seen a lot of interesting things, and those kind of things. But it is so important to me about the time we spent and how I can express to people that we have to find that type of place with those type of people. I think Tenny said something so important last week. It's been resonant on my mind this whole time, is that you can have a body of people that you associate with and that you're around, right? But if something changes in your life, can you still be around them? Are they the same people to support you in that same capacity? And if they're not, what do you do? Are you lost? Or you have no tribe anymore? This and that. And so one of the big parts I think that we really try to and want to maintain at the Fatherhood Think Tank, that there doesn't matter what other thing you got going on, right? No matter what it is, if you're a father, you're a father. If you're planning to be father, you still in this mix, because you can't get anything but knowledge and experience and ideas about how you begin to work on yourself to be the man and the father you want to be. So I want to throw that out there, just to know that, this is not just a thing we get on here and just talk. And it's just like, we're going to talk about today, this and that. This is, for me, a big part of this is a whole way of life. And I kind of like almost tribute a lot of our conversations and what we're doing to the support of my life. Like, I'll be honest, I'm a therapist. I do therapy with all kinds of couples and people and children and all the time. And people ask me this all the time. Hey, well, do you go to therapy? Yes, I've been to therapy. Not the kind of therapy that people might think, right? So, some people are going to therapy because they got stuff going on and they were trying to fix it. I consider this one of my therapies. This is a part of therapy. And it's not to fix anything. It's to keep my mind activated in the patterns of hearing the thoughts of other fathers, other men, and being able to do some self reflection upon what I hear from these fathers and what they hear from me, and how we utilize that in our day-to-day walk in life as fathers. And some people would say, well, how do you work that? And, well, that's something I think you need to be able to do as a man, to recognize that you need to find a place, find a body of people who can hold you accountable, even if they're not holding you directly accountable, your involvement with them holds you accountable. But that also goes into your character and your morals, your ethics, how you know that the big thing to me is your character, because I couldn't feel that I could sit on this platform and say this, that, and the other if I didn't go back and reflect on things that I can be working on for me to be a better man, a better father, a better human. And those are things that are very important. So I throw that out there just to, just get us in a mindset about, these things be on my mind. I say, well, let me bring them to my therapy group and Sam, and definitely looking to hear any responses, any comments, or just thoughts about what was said, and then definitely let's go into our first question about and I don't even know this is anybody have any experience with fathers being veterans, what that looks like in a bigger picture.
My stepdad, awesome man too. I mean, great husband to my mom, great stepfather to me. As a matter of fact, I think his greatest compliment to me or about me was he said, he always used to call me by my nickname. I'm not gonna let y'all know my nickname, but he said he said one thing he can say about me if he can't say nothing else is I never said one bad thing to him. He said I never disrespect him a day in my life since he known me, ever. And so he went to his grave, and I gave him the reward of going to his grave, knowing that he didn't have to say it. Now he can go to his grave and know it because I made it my business. And I was very, back to your last week's topic, I was very intentional about being a good, I'm just, excuse my grammar, but just as good stepson to him as he was stepdad to me. So I think the character, and not to mention he said that I never disrespected him. I'm like, well, how could I disrespect somebody I prayed for? You understand? I wanted my mom, because I always knew my mom deserved somebody. Not saying my dad was he less than my stepdad. My dad is a great person as well. He just wasn't the right man for my mom. Right. But my stepdad came along and was the perfect man for my mom. And I prayed for him, someone like him to come along. You may not think it, but I mean, hopes of children are prayers. And so I think we, as children, we pray as children through our hopes. We hope our mom can do this. We hope our parents can do that. And so through my hopes was my prayers for my mom, and God honored those in the likes of my stepdad. And so, yes, he was a veteran in the Army. I'm talking about like he was in World War II, right? That's the world with the Germany thing, right? He was definitely in that. He was a part of that. And I mean, he had stories. But I think a part of that, being that veteran and understanding what real up in your face danger type of things like that gave him a look like that. And so I think, and you gotta understand, my stepdad is the Christmas guy. He's the holiday guy. I'm talking about to the point that, to the magnitude of we had the best lit up house on the block, not just online, in the area, not even the block. So much so I used to get spooked because people, I forget, you live there, so you live in the house with the lights. So when people slow down in front of your house, you just thinking like, who's scoping my house out, and not forgetting that all the joy that's coming out of that house. And that was just so much him. He was that guy. And so because of that, he passed that that particular character of joy and kindness and charity on to me, because he made it so effortless. You understand? You ever seen people that you just, like you, Teeny, you guys make kindness look so effortless, right? That's the type of guy he was. He enjoyed giving. It was not a a sacrifice for him. It was a joy. And so for me, I'm pretty sure being a vet played a great part in that. And I was just honored that he can go to his grave saying what he said, leaving that reference behind about the type of stepson I was. And I mean, even his son said, wow. He didn't even say that about his own son. He had great sons. Don't get me wrong. Got great sons. But he never, that's one of the things his sons them always told me, like my dad said, you never said one bad thing to him ever since he known you ever. And he went to his grave saying that, and that was a good reference for me. So I would like to play honor to Mr. Henry Milton Rowe. Great guy.
You know what branch he was in?
Army.
Army. You know, you said something like born, and when you was just speaking, and I thought about it, and I think it's important for people to, you know, whenever I hear things, and I know it's going to take us a little bit away from time, but I think this is important. I think it's important for people to know, because sometimes it happens that sometimes for kids will believe that their parents not being together, right, is something that is tragic, right? Or is that, you know, maybe even something they had something to do with, or their parents are not successful, and they almost then, when their parents may find other people to be involved with or want to be in, that the situation might be different. That person, this person is the person for them to be with. That, you know, they have both got to, you know, as parents, as individuals, got to a place where this is a relationship they even really want, you know, because sometimes we have kids. Sometimes you have kids, and you know, here we go. Here we go. I don't know why I always get these things happen, and it's just like something that was going on, and then you bring something up, and it puts it right back. I just happened to see some stuff about Brian McKnight, and allegedly Brian McKnight has been on the outs because and people have been really giving him the business because he got a new wife, a new family, new kids, and I guess his old wife and his old kids. There was some controversy, some things about, you know, like what he didn't do and this, all of these things, right? And so he had this interview, and this is some things I thought about, and I was thinking. The point to get out of it was that he said that he got married for the first, you know, and I don't know. Listen. This is what he said. I'm just going on what he's saying. He got married because he had got his wife pregnant, right? Not so much for himself did he get her marry her. He married her because of in the religion that he was in. I think it's Seventh-day Adventist or something, one of these religions, that if his mother was the minister of music or something, and that if he had did that, his mother would be affected. She couldn't hold her position. All these things would happen. So he ended up, you know, he assumed that, again, here we get into the story. He assumed that the mother of his wife was going to have an abortion, but she decided not to. All these things, and then it was like, well, what do I have to do as a man? I'm going to have to do what I had to do. I'm going to have to stand and do and get married, and you know, some people have questioned, hey, why did you stay so long? He said he stayed that long for the kids, you know, for the benefit of the kids. And as you were saying that, and I was thinking about, you know, this whole Brian McKnight and how this operates. It's important for us to know that sometimes people do make decisions to be in relationships, to have families, even if they don't want to. And not just men, but women do too. People will say, I want to do this. And people say, why did you stay? Why did you do this? Why? Because I did it for the kids. I did it for the best benefit of them. And then sometimes I have a funny feeling sometimes about it, that to say, is it really in the best benefit of them? Because if you guys know that you're not people that's compatible, um, the energy of uncompatibility begins to trickle down and have an effect on not just you but everybody around you. It's not like a thing where we can say, "Oh, we're compatible. We'll do this and do that. Start sleeping in a separate bed, but we're gonna stay connected for the kids, so they don't feel hurt or don't feel the pain of us not being together." But the pain that they're feeling, like Brian and Knight's sons at this present moment, still feel the same pain that they would have broke up then, right? Because they feel that their dad in some play don't, has dropped them for a new family, you know. And some of that is because of how you made it. I think as men, I didn't have a problem with him saying, "Hey, he did this and did that," but I think we have to be very proactive to do what's best for us and for the people that we're going to affect. Now, I know he didn't want to affect his mom or whatever happened, but the reality is that was his mom, not him. And he did this. He put himself in this place to say, "Hey, I'm going to have these. I'm going to marry her. Then have more kids with her." See, that's where the part that becomes, strange. Like, you didn't want to have a kid, but then you get married, then you have more kids with the person, and then next thing you know, you're going and saying, "I didn't want to do this anyway. I'm not interested in this." And now I have the right now to say, "Hey, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go and get what I want, how I want." That's a hard game, man. Not just for the kids, but a hard game for yourself and that other person that you're in a relationship with, to do and go through that merry-go-round of things. It's a much easier thing to say, "Hey, I don't want to have a child. I'm 20 years old. You 18 years old. You're not going to have an abortion. Well, we'll just have," because the issue came, I think what he explained is that they made an agreement to be married. And again, this is all Brian McKnight explaining to the podcaster. He made the agreement to be married, but he told her certain things he didn't have time to be doing because he was working on his career, trying to get his music and all that together. He didn't really have time. And I want to almost say, again, I'm smart aleck, always giving a pun. Then you should have been focused on your music, not focused on inside her. You should have been focusing on your music, because if you trying to focus on music, focus on this and this, you might have wanted to stay away as much as possible from anything that could have stopped you from getting where the music was. But a lot of times as human beings, we want to have our cake, our ice cream. Could you bring me some whipped cream? Oh, I want sprinkles. I need a brownie. I need a brownie to go with this, a cherry, and a big glass of milk and a glass of water, and I'm gonna eat it all. And don't realize at some point, if you eat all that stuff, you might have a tummy ache later, and it's not gonna set well with you. And so maybe you should just eat what you could eat, and maybe not try to have your cake. Just have a piece of cake, a slice of cake, not everything. But that's a funny thing. So I as you were saying that, like, boy, that brought me to that thing I seen today, and I just was like tripping out on it to say, hey, I could understand, this idea of Brian McKnight was at, but I'm still holding an idea of accountability that you as a man will have to hold. I mean, and I say that because I held myself to the same accountability. If I didn't want something, I shouldn't have did something, and I did it, and I own it. I own it. I have to live with the consequences of it. And when the time comes that I need to explain and take ownership to my children, I will do that. I will say, hey, this is what it is. This is how it is. And basically, you really got to say, I'm sorry. And I hope that it hasn't affected you so much that we can't continue now to start working on it in a way that is different than how it's been worked on when the power dynamics weren't the same. I think I use that as a better say. The power dynamics are not the same for us to be able to work on it then. But now our dynamics are completely different, and we can make our own choices to work on this and establish this in some way that benefits us without sometimes the influence of other people outside of us. Because that's the decision that has to be made. At that point, if that's the decision you don't want and you don't want it. But make sure it's that because you don't want it, not because of influences of somebody else or how someone else may, push you to believe. And that happens both ways, not just for the children, also for the parents. Because sometimes they have their partners pushing them in some way, or the people saying, "Oh, these kids didn't respect you, or they didn't do this. Why would you be trying to do?" You have all of these kind of things that occur. So I know I went on a little tangent about that, but
it's okay because I've heard. You know what? Let me just be clear. This is not a new discussion. I've been hearing this Brian McKnight saga for years. I think it's disingenuous, and here's why. I think Brian McKnight then is what Neo is now, right? And so when you have and people say influences, I'm like, excuse my language, you right. Influences. I said, because guess what? You was the greatest influence. And if you built your brand on a facade, you understand? A facade, literally, you built your brand on a facade of I am this morally ethical type, romantic husband, standard type guy. That's your brand. You understand? You have R&B romance. That's your brand. That's what you're successful for. You understand? And then to know all this time you was using a woman just to build your brand. So when you get rich enough, then you can become what you really are. You understand? So it's not really about just about that woman. It's about every traumatized woman in this country that got that same story. And then we go ahead and entertain these Negroes' excuses. You understand? You see Neo around here, same thing, same brand, ethical, moral, the catalyst of what a man should be, blah, blah, blah. And then you get to where you need to be or where you want to be. And then all of a sudden you this freak. You understand? Because you have enough money now to be a freak. And so I think Brian McKnight, yeah, of course he used that woman. It has nothing to do with his mama. You understand? But she's suffering. One thing her and his mama do have in common. You understand? Is they suffer from the same trauma of no good Negroes. And so that's the reality of it. I mean, I don't have no excuses for him. I'm like half of what he said, because he did everything but took the blame for himself. He did everything but sacrifice. You understand? He sacrificed everybody in that conversation, but his own selfishness. He ain't never sacrificed and said, you know what, truthfully, and I'm going to be honest with you, when you stay together and you're loyal and you do this and that, it's a certain level that you have to sacrifice a certain level of selfishness to be that. People talk about loyalty, but don't know what the hell that really is. With true loyalty comes the sacrifice of self and selfishness. That man never, you understand? He don't understand what it is. Here it is. This situation is about 20 years old, and he still haven't learned a thing 20 years later, just in the very interview that he said. I'm like, damn, you got the same narrative you did 20 years ago. You haven't learned a thing. You understand? You got new kids and haven't learned a thing, which means that you might have more money with them, but less character. Say same character, got more money, but the same poor character with them kids will be with the same present kids he have right now. Because that's one thing you can't that remains the same is character. And so I don't think that he had a right, you understand, to traumatize his wife or the millions of women he sold records to believe that he was the man that he said he was, even when he wasn't.
Well, like when he'll say I'm an entertainer. That wasn't me. I was just an entertainer. I'm entertaining.
Really? And you sacrifice your family to become that?
Why he say he said the family And this all came simultaneously. Like the family was the setback, setback of things. And well, I guess, and it's funny you say that, because I think the whole thing was to make a narrative for him to say, hey, stop looking at me as a bad person, right? Because everything I did, because I was forced to do it, because I am a good person, right? I was forced to get married and stay in this marriage because I'm a good person. I needed to do what men are supposed to do. I'm supposed to do certain things, and I'm supposed to be a certain way. And for me, that becomes the problem, because this idea of I'm doing things because I'm supposed to do it leads to you not doing it that way. And I'm only saying this because of my day-to-day work with children in the school, right? When they have to do it, it's horrible. They don't put a period at the end of a sentence. They don't carry to regroup the number over right. They don't use capitalization. They don't do it because they have to do it. But the things when we say that it's free time, it's time to draw and try to, we're going to get on this thing. Listen, that stuff is done excellently. It's not a mistake made. So let's just say man up and take the responsibility of, this is what happened and this is what I'm going to do about it and how I'm going to handle it. And I'm going to own my own. Listen, I can own my part and your part. Because guess what? Society going to still look at me the same way, regardless, that they won't look at you in the same way. And I think that's a big part. I think you're saying a lot, Lightborn, is that it's not inequality. It's not an equality. It's not equality here that's going to overshadow the inequality that happens in these relationships. There is an inequality, that the idea that a man can do something and a woman does something and it's looked at completely different. Either way, vice versa. I'm not saying, I don't want you to get me twisted. And it's not determined by us. It's determined by the society and how society will play out what's being done and how they look at it. You could have nipped this in the bud. The first kid, you could have been like, hey, we'll do this. We'll raise this kid. And you could have been out of that marriage quicker and faster than you wanted to.
Ron, that's awful. And the reason I'm saying it's awful is because as a man, I rarely get treated that way. The woman who loved me never have options. You understand? When a woman is in with you, it's because of her limited options that puts her even deeper with you. You understand? So I think we manipulate our privilege, which is what he's doing in his situation. I've got to see one play out publicly, and Cat Williams just always clowning him too. It's your frat brother too, but he's clowned himself because he's been caught up in the millions of lies, and I think he married a woman who could love him, chose a woman who could love him, over a woman who did love him. And I think he sacrificed the woman who did love him for the woman who could love him. I mean, time is going to really tell the truth on that.
Right.
But we all know that he had the same story for the previous two wives. And then he took all those stories and applied them to the current wife. I'm like, yeah, I was there too. I heard the same thing Cat Williams heard within those time frames. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm a witness to it as well. He's 100% right. It's not hearsay. This is what you said about the first wife or the second wife. And now you're applying all of that to this present wife. That's disingenuous. And for women to be consistent, we're going to tell you something. Just nothing wrong with wanting to be loved. You have a right. I think it's the greatest God-given right on earth. And the only people that seems to want to be loved is women and children. Men, we want to love based on the way we think we should be loved and the way we think love should be. And that's wrong. I can't sit here and say, hey, man, I'm like, nah, partner. At least if you didn't cover in the marriage, cover her in the conversation. But your character is bad all the way around. So you ain't had no... You're just a terrible guy. I hope the guy on the show told him that. But either way, he need to come on this show. Let me tell it to him. But and I think we need to just, I mean, really, because we have to be accountable, because I depend on Ron. I depend on you to be the man that you are. I depend on you to be the friend that you are. I depend on you to be the brother that you are. I depend on you to be the father that you are. Same thing with Teeny. I wouldn't see nothing different. And so if I was if Teeny, wherever Teeny neck of the woods, just nothing for me to call Teeny, because to say, Teeny, I'm coming by, because you know what? It will do my heart good to see you wherever you are. So if I'm in your neck of the woods, that's routine for me. That's just who I am. You don't have to be nothing special. All I need to do is know you. That's it. And when we hook up and I see you intact and being exactly who you say you are, because that's who I'm coming to see anyway. I'm not going to come in to see a version of you. I'm coming to see exactly who you are, and that's who I'm coming to fellowship with. You understand? Because God forbid one of us leave here. That's who I'm going to miss. That's
right.
character.
Exactly. Right.
But anything else, I'm like, I don't care about influence. Influence is not going to. I think Michael, Maya Angelou said it best. If people show you who they are, believe them. And so people are not talking against what he said he is. People are talking against who he showed he was. And this applies to him as well. I'm going to leave it alone. Go ahead, Teeny.
I got no comment.
You all cried out? Okay, I got you. You gonna leave it all behind? One last cry?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what to say. If I look at my personal experience, it's just completely different. So it is what it is.
I think, Tenny, you hit a nail. Even no comment, right? That you don't have, puts the nail in this whole commentary, because he didn't have to, this is what I'm saying. We see multiple fathers out here doing excellent jobs, being a respectful father to the mother of the child, right? And sometimes that respect comes with saying, I know that I'm not going to do you any good to play with you. And what I mean by play with you, listen, the deed is done. The baby's here, right? There's a couple things I can do. I can get ghosts and never see me again. I could say, oh, let me do the old family. Let's get married. And knowing I don't want to, especially if you don't want to be, see, because there's a difference between a woman that I'm in a relationship with, we're involved, and moving toward that status of relationship and having a baby, and then saying, okay, we move forward. We're going to move forward. And sometimes what you find in those relationships, they're not quick to go and get married. They initially sometimes go to establish a unified place for this child to be born into, right? Where you have two parents that are on the same page about what's happening, what's going on. Getting married doesn't put you on the same page. You know what I'm saying? People think that getting married without any kids don't put people on the same page. Sometimes marriage is nice, and you got to remember why people get married. Get married because the person want a great wedding. Or do the person want to not be alone? Or does the person, want to say, hey, I want to build something with somebody. I want to be able to have a partner that I can, be with for having, if I need a ride or die person, I want to be able to have that. And that's not something you just go and pick any random person for, right? You don't just go say, hey, you come on, just come go with me. We're going to go get married. We're going to be together for the rest. No, they're not. We're going to have these kids. But sometimes that's where it's looking at, like, how sometimes people operating when they're getting into these unions. So I definitely hear the point of, there's a whole bunch of people that all this is Chinese arithmetic to them. Because it doesn't make any sense. This is not, what are you talking about? What do you mean? I know people right now who will tell you, yo, I don't even know what this guy's talking about because I've been with my children's mother for 5 years, my children's mother, and then she became my wife 10 years later, and we still had the same everything. It wasn't we didn't rush to get married because we raised our kids, and part of raising our kids listen, this is one scenario. This one scenario. The raising their kids brought them so much more closer together as a team that the love that they had from the attraction from the beginning became even stronger as they raised their kids because there was things they really seen in each other they didn't know until they was faced with the things about the kids. These are the kind of things that but if you already come and say, and I say this all the time to somebody about always walking into something with a negative mindset. Oh, this ain't gonna work. Oh, we can't get here. Oh, they're not gonna see us. It's already closed. And I'd be like, yo, let's just go. And if we get turned away, it's okay. But if we go, they might say, oh yeah, just come on, we'll let y'all come in. You get the last minute. Oh, you ain't got no tickets? The lady told me I was getting some food, and I said, "Oh, I think you got my order wrong. I wanted cheese. I wanted crazy bread." She said, "Oh, here, just have it." These kind of things, it's keeping a positive mindset and being positive, optimistic about things is where you find things can work a little bit better. But if you always have I think a deficit mindset about it, it's not going to happen. And so you already, Brian McKnight, and I don't just use him again, he already had a deficit about this whole thing. So why did you get married to this lady? You didn't want to get married to her. You didn't want to have anything to do. And then you say you did it for your mom, so your mom won't lose her position at the church to be the mistress of music?
Brian McKnight threw his ex-wife, his mom, and the church under the bus. He just don't care. That's just his character. I'm not going to waste another moment on Brian McKnight. But I will say, let me remind you back to the topic, Keeney. You make sure you don't miss the opportunity to highlight any veterans, whether you're a veteran father or you had a father who was a veteran or know a surrogate father that was a veteran that may have impacted your life. So I definitely want you to share that testimony and that story. That's more talk worthy than any Brian McKnight story.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think that it even goes to when we go and make that pivot to that, what our topic is. I almost want to go back to a conversation. I don't know if we was having, who I was having this with, about how veterans and people who have fathers who have been in war, who have even went into the military, how they have been affected by being in the military, that then later on affected them, their family, their children, and their spouses. One of the big things I think about, and maybe Tenny, you can speak to this time frame that I'm looking at. It was right after the Vietnam War, and a lot of guys before they went to the Vietnam War, they had partners, they had women, some had even young children. They had these people, and they went to the war, and when they came back, their family was in some turmoil. Like, these guys were, at many points, became alcoholics, some substance use, abusive to not just their wife, but also the family. And people begin to relate that to an idea that was the character of the men, right? And then also people would begin, and I like to call victim blaming the women, saying, why are you staying with this man? Why would you stay with a man who does this and a man who would be like this? You should just leave him, and not really explain. Even at some point, the mothers didn't explain to the children why they didn't leave and get up and leave. And that just explain the strength of many Black women, the strength of understanding that this is not the man who left me. This is the man who came back. I still know the man who left me. I'm still hoping that something can happen, that this other my original man will, and he's there. He's not completely gone, but now he has the trauma of being in the war, the trauma of fighting in the war, being in this place where there was such discrimination or even injustice done in the wartime, and coming back thinking that, hey, I'm going to be able to make a better way for my wife and my kids, only finding out that you were unable to pretty much do a lot of things. And that some of the drugs and things that happened to them in the military. They got strung and hooked on it from that point, and they came back and they were stuck with, they find out that, and then they come back and say, hey, you can't really live in the house with your family. Your family can't continue to stay in the house, and I don't have the money I didn't get my GI Bill, so I can't go and buy the house because of redlining and all of these kind of things that people don't take in consideration when they think about our veterans. For me, I know that because I know the veterans that I know from me being the child of that veteran, of the things that affected them when they came back from these wars. And I'm just talking about that generation, but we know as we look in history, we look back all the way from the Civil War. And I'll give you a great example. A soldier who did a lot for the Civil War, and she didn't get anything. She didn't even have a place to stay afterwards because she was a woman. First, she was a woman. Second, she was Black. And there was no law to allow her to get anything for the troops that she led or any of the stuff she did. She was just kind of like this freelance. She almost was homeless. She couldn't get a GI Bill, couldn't get anything. Harriet Tubman. History that people don't know. She did a lot of stuff. She did a lot of stuff for the military, for the Union Army during the time of the Civil War, but she didn't get anything from it. And that is the trickle down that we see. We see the guys that went to World War I. It came back and it was being hung in their uniforms. So you see this trickle down of, really being able to say, hey, as a community, we really need to, look at our soldiers and our veterans and really, as much as possible, pour love, because I think that it's very hard for us to understand what they faced and what they end up dealing with to put them where they are now a lot of times when we see them. And it's kind of like in an unfavorable manner. Even in that movie, I remember that movie, what movie that was, The Colors, the play. It was a play and The Colors, and Illy was the father, and he threw the kids out the window because he had came back from the military, had post-traumatic stress disorder, and he threw the kids out. Like stuff like that. But then again, people didn't understand why the mother would still be with Illy when she knew Michael Illy was having a problem. He seemed like he wasn't good. He was angry and abusive and all this. Why would she stand with him? Because the Michael Illy that left her to go to the military, that she loved, and who loved her. See, because that's another part that we sometimes leave out, that these men also still love, but they dealing with stuff that they didn't get service for. They didn't get the resources for. And that's something we have to, I all the time advocate when we talk about what veterans need. We need to make sure they have the services they really need.
Well, I know, I've mentioned before, my dad was not in the military, but he was a part of the northern migration. He was born in Mississippi and moved to Chicago to find better a life for himself. And that's where he met my mom, and the rest, as they say, is history. But I don't know. As you were talking, Dr. Ron, it kind of made me think, he may not have been in a national war or something like that to fight for his country, but he must have been in some kind of war, uh, a
Mm-hmm.
war of the battle of life, because my dad was an alcoholic. He was never abusive that I ever saw to my mom, was never abusive to me and my sister. It was just the two of us. Um, he was there. He stayed with my mom, and in spite of, I guess, their differences of thought processes and theories on how to do life. Um, so uh, I don't know what drove him to drink like he did. Fortunately, I was able to, um, I'd say in the last um, 10 years of his life, 15 years of his life, he was able to stop the drinking, and, because it was affecting his health and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I don't know what kind of battles that he had to face, that he had to kind of like check out of life at the moment, through the bottle. Um, but something was there. I never questioned him about it. Um, you know, it just is what it is. And I am thankful for his service as a dad. Uh,
Mm.
for me in my life, because he taught me a lot of things, even though he was not, verbose in his parenting skills. He was, just a quiet, silent man. He spoke when he had to, and he defended himself if he felt like he needed to. He was that kind of dad. My grandfather, however, was a World War II veteran, and I didn't find out until I was in my 20s that he was not my biological grandfather. He was my step grandfather. He married my mother's mother, and he was great. Um, that dude, as I guess as a step grandchild, that dude, he took care of us. Um, I remember, going over to their house, spending nights. He was a working man. He just did his due. He didn't have any vices or anything. Never smoked, never drank. Was a deacon at his church. Was very proud of being a deacon. Um, I can't, say enough about the character of him. Um, and when I look at my dad and look at him, who actually went through war, had been through war, and how he was able to, maintain his discipline. There were no vices that caught hold to him after the war was over. He married my grandmother, accepted my mom as his stepdaughter. Uh, raised her. Uh, I can't say enough about the man. And then, juxtaposed to my dad, even though he was never abusive physically, I guess the abuse only came when he was extremely inebriated. Uh, just having that influence around me. He never served in a war, but you would think with the vices that caught hold to him, he would have. So that's an interesting dynamic. that I'll just throw out there.
Yeah, I think, you know what, Tinny, I think that, and I've been very steadfast about this, and as I, do some of my, you know, I won't even say research, but some of my narrative changing about our black fathers, and what people have made them to be. Looking at the reason why, even in the therapy that I do, that when people are coming to me with therapy, I address the initial therapeutic issue that affects them. And for me, large majority of it is that them being the struggle of being black in this society, right? And people will say, "Well, what do you mean by that? I don't know." Listen, I know that it's not a diagnosis, it's not something, but a lot of times we don't even know the transgenerational effects of how the behavior that happened in one place then affects us and how we respond to it in the next generation. And so being very clear to understand that, hey, as much as things have happened to us, being a strength-based therapist, looking at the strengths that we have, looking at the things that we're strong for, not forgetting that these other things are happening, but being able to look not just as a victim mentality, because sometimes people like to have us to be victim mentality. Oh, everything happens to us. Oh, no, there's a difference from a victim mentality versus being aware of things that have happened to you and understand how you have to show resilience. And I don't like that word resilience so much because it be played in all kinds of ways. Just that we had the strength as a human to be able to continue on and that not break us. And I think that's the human will. That's the human will that people talk about that you have, even when you've been told you don't have anything, right? That you don't have nothing, And it's funny that you brought up the idea about your how related to your grandfather, then related to your father, right? Um, because I think about looking at the my military family. I have a I have two grandfathers. When I think about one grandfather was a military man and one wasn't. One was not a man of, he was a traveling man. He came from Trinidad to America, so he had a different path than my other grandfather, who family ultimately came from the South Carolina through the Philadelphia Trails. So the same migration that you're talking about, and this migration of where the trails were, that we don't even talk about no more. People don't even speak about that. There are different places that have direct trails from one place to the next, right? And it's directly upward. And most people go straight up because not only the reason why they was going straight up, because those were the most safe routes to take from the places that they was going. It's like we just say, how did they end up there? Why did that? Because this was the most safest route to take to get out of the place they was trying to get to the industrious world. Who that there was things to be able to be done, and some kind of equality they felt that might could be in those places. So you just look when we're talking and we're thinking about this, and understanding that all of the military men that I know in my family at some point had some substance issue, right? To what severity that they had it, but I know that on a large scale, there is an understanding that their hyper substance use was heightened after being involved in the military. It was, and because then being in the military changed who they was, and then they came back. And again, the military at one point was this thing to tell you that you go there, you'll have a better life than the life you would have had, right? But then you won't go to the military, you come back, and your life ain't really all that better. It's kind of sometimes it's worse, and you don't have the same means because also you look at the military. The military can set you up to say, hey, this is what you're going to get when you're in the military. You're going to have you got your cot, your meals, your money, all the stuff you need, and then you come back and you got none of those things. That's traumatic. That can be a traumatic to go from that. That's why some people like to be involved with institutions. You know, the institution that you went to, the military institution. You say, hey, how many guys end up in a rehabilitation institution like prisons, because these things kind of coincide. Like somebody will take it. All I gotta do is do my job in the military, and somebody gonna take care of everything else for me. Well, when you come out of the military and you can't even maintain them, make any of those things happen, it can be a shock. And I think it can also make you do some things that's a little bit different than what you would have been doing. And then one of those things when we're talking about is how you would father. How would you be this type of father? When you're dealing with what's going on with you, sometimes it can make it difficult for you to say, I'm going to be a kind of father that does what I need to do for my kids and for everything that needs to happen. And sometimes that just doesn't happen. So I
No, you're
see.
right about that. That'd have to be a very traumatic experience. Go ahead and read Ralph's comment, and then we can go ahead and expound on it.
Yeah, it says the battle now are being fought in the classroom, bedroom, and job. These these are where the triggers are coming from. When you work so much, you become unavailable to others, including yourself. Hey, you know the I have to. Ralph is saying something that we may not be looking at, but it is very prevalent today. Um, Classroom, the bedroom, and in the job place. That almost looks like the transition from uh, boyhood,
Well,
manhood, fatherhood.
but you know what? This is where, and I'm gonna expound on what Ralph is saying and make this more personal rather, or personable, because I always want to say I want to sound like really like with tact, personable, like more educated. Anyway, uh, reading what he said, I'm like he said the battles not being fought. The battles are only saying the battles are now being fought in the classrooms, bedrooms, and the jobs. Coincidentally, these are the three places where men and boys are emasculated the most.
Mm,
Classrooms, you want to emasculate your
Mm-hmm.
boys. You say they can't,
Bedroom.
and I think when you talk about most of the illiteracy studies and experiments, etc., your boys, and particularly your black boys, fall victim to that. So that take care of the classrooms. You got a woman who's really who's not just, she could just be impatient. She don't have to be ungrateful. She just can be an impatient woman, and not willing to work the process with you, and get frustrated, certain frustration, and if she's not disciplined enough to be the woman you need, you can be emasculated in the bedroom with different affairs and different things like that. And but she don't even have an affair. She can just emasculate you with her words. And so you also have the jobs. You understand where well, first of all, you got to get one. You understand? And in this
Right.
society, right? So you just you just emasculated, just trying to get a job. You understand? And hold on to it with things being and people say the way they are. I'm like, wait, you mean the way they always been? These things haven't just gotten like this. These things have always been like this. And so I would say, yeah, a lot of things are by design, but I think this particular design is trickling over to other cultures, which can be a pro and a con for all men. You understand? Because it gives us a chance to reevaluate ourselves, um, who we are, first of all, and then um, so we can determine how we can move forward. Well, number one, empower ourselves, and then move forward in that empowerment. I think again we still had an advantage because the type of woman, um, the expectation that we set for the type of women we are. We set bars of women we want, rather. We can set the bars really high when we are a particular man of, I wouldn't even say of influence. I would say a man of average influence, which means you got a halfway decent job, right? And so you can still be a blue collar worker and still demand a white collar woman, right? A blue collar a black. You can be a blue collar black man and still demand a white collar black woman. You know what I'm saying? This is how the dynamics are so unjust when it comes to relationships and availability of men and women. And so even with that, you can be a halfway decent man and get the most decent woman uh, within the society. And so I think if I had to put myself in the mindset of woman, that had to be pretty unfair to know I could do everything right and still may end up with the wrong result. But nonetheless, I think we have to be a lot more disciplined, emotionally disciplined. That's a good word I'm going to use when it comes to the emotional traumas of our women, and a lot more empathetic. I think sometimes, even with my wife, I think she's the sweetest person in the world. And sometimes most times she does the wrong thing. She do for all the right reasons. Um, it doesn't mean it's any less of the wrong thing. You understand? And so trying to build that bridge um, to like balance that, like listen, this, yeah, I know you did the wrong thing for the right thing, right reason, but the wrong thing will still produce a wrong outcome. You understand? So when you try to build that bridge to like, yeah, you are very kind, you're loving and stuff like that, but I don't want anybody to victimize you with your love, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I'm married, so I'm learning some things. Hey, look at me, I'm learning. Well, I'm married, I'm learning some things, and I have to back up sometimes and be like, wow, because we as men we pride ourselves on being right, right, and so I have to back up, and I'm like, then I have to seek God, and Gina, you will love this one. I have to seek God's guidance because I don't know when I'm being too hard or too soft, and so now I have to say, God, you know what, I'm like, listen, I could be a little bit more empathetic, and God may show me some things like, I need you to be a little bit more forceful. But then again, you don't want to believe that God will want you to be forceful because we believe, this is, sometimes this is what we thought, oh, God is a mercy God. But God said, who thou lovest, thou chasing. You understand? And when it comes, he said, man, if you love her, you understand? There's going to be times, yeah, of course, you can be nice all you want, but there's going to be some times you're going to have to be very necessary because too much kindness can kill you. You understand? And too much kindness will kill your relationship too. Because it's the dynamics are, I can tell you, are very, very strange, and you're gonna have to have a lot of discernment to know when you're either being too hard or too soft. And that's that may be a season. I mean, that may be the season that we're in with me and her, but I know that I love her enough to think about it.
I think you should find another word in your vocabulary for kindness. I actually don't think you can have too much kindness. I think you can have I'm not even sure. There's got to be another word in there, another word to use. Uh, too much sunshades, too much blinders. You can have that where you overlook some things for the sake of uh, uh, things down, that kind of thing.
Let me help you. I think that I think I know exactly what you're getting at, Ed. Once you say blinders, it put me in the context of saying that being naive. And sometimes when we are being pure about what we're doing, we can become naive about what everybody else is doing. because we're not. This goes into the word of projection, right? Projection is people project what they would do, and this is a positive aspect of projection. Most time it's in a negative sense. If I'm a person who thinks that everyone is genuine, my kindness is from my heart, and I'm doing it because I want to, I will begin to project that that's how other people are going to be, and that is a sense of the naiveness that occurs because we are, you know, projecting this idea that people are going to operate in the same capacity that we operate, and if they're and we may not even have any and I find this a lot of times that as men I've seen have been are very naive in this, right? And the person who corrects them on it helps them understand it and see it clearly. Usually the woman that's close to them.
Oh, you're absolutely right. So I tell you what, I can replace that word because you're right. You can never have too much kindness, so I stand corrected. But I think too much niceness can turn to naiveness.
Right.
And so I think because that's just who she intentionally is. She loves being intentional about being nice. She doesn't like controversy. She's slow to anger and all the other good stuff, which is a great quality, which is one of the reasons I married her. But I also married her to protect that. You understand? So that's an asset to me. And if I see anyone, including her children and all, I don't care who it is, that looks like they want to take advantage of that. You understand? Then that's when I become necessary. We often play around with it. I say, she's nice, I'm necessary. And I think sometimes because of her niceness, people don't give her flowers. You know, people always say, give her your flowers.
Mm-hmm.
People that's often nice like her, they don't give flowers to, they give manure to. Right? I'm just being
but like when you're absolutely right. And the reason why I find that to be is what I was saying. They believe they have this idea that this is that person, and they don't take in consideration what it takes because they're thinking about themselves. They are thinking that, oh, that person's not like me. It takes me a lot to be this way. They think that this person's just that way, and so is their nature, and you don't have to thank them for it. You don't have to thank Daddy for going to work every day, bringing home the money for the groceries, the house. You don't got to thank him because that's his job to always do. You don't have to. You thank Mama for cooking the dinner, right? You thank her and say, Mom, thank you so much. This food's so good. Because we don't think about that, hey, what it takes for that person to do, because we just believe that's what they're supposed to do. That's what they do.
Well, right, exactly. But and the thing about it is people, and I think people do it so unconsciously that they don't know what the hell they're doing. And so as a husband, I have to be very conscious about what people are doing unconsciously. And so because she is very empathetic, that's the word, and it's a very great word. She's a very empathetic person. And so what people would do was use that as a license to dump on her. You understand? Which I'm not going to stand around. I'm like, whoa. If the damn wicked witch from the Oz, if the wicked witch from Oz can put a standard on her wickedness and saying, don't nobody bring me no bad news. Who are we to dump bad news on good people?
I think that's
notorious for it.
I hear you, and I actually identify with what both of you gentlemen were saying, and that is the beauty of the marital relationship and the idea of knowing your partner. I think when the Bible talks about knowing, there's a whole breadth or a whole bandwidth that is included in that word about knowing your partner, and that's actually a beautiful example of husbandry, because you recognize a gift that's in your wife's spirit, that gift of empathy, and how the world will take advantage of that and drain her dry.
Mm.
And it's up to you as her husband to recognize that gift in her, to know her enough to be able to say, honey, you're being taken advantage of here. I'm stepping in right now as your husband. This has got to stop. And that's beautiful. It's a beautiful example of husbandry, and I look up to you for that. You
I'm
got
glad
me.
you say it because I always felt like I was a crappy husband, but
No,
but I'm gonna do my best to be her husband. And when I see certain things, man, I'm like, man, you put out so much happiness, you deserve all the happiness you can get. And maybe that's why God blessed you to marry my crazy ass, because I never could understand the match. But God has His will, and I'm like, and His hand is all over this marriage. I mean, He's the head of this marriage, and I'm like, no, you're not. You're gonna get everything you deserve. Even I have to go to war with you to get it and have it. You understand? So it's unfortunate. I mean, sometimes if I hate to say it, but I'm like, if I wasn't here, I'm like, what would you guys do? Your mama deserve she's a better person. You know what I'm saying? Not saying she have bad, terrible kids and stuff like that. I think our kids we have our share of unappreciation days and stuff like that, and things that they can improve on. I think overall they're great kids, but at the same time, I'm like, you don't have the right to take advantage of the kindness of your mom because she's forgiven you 100,000 times. You guess she can give you 100,000 more times. And I'm like, no, my wife is not going to be stuck in nobody moo worrying and waiting home for you when we can be out enjoying our life, that life that God bless us to have, and His love that we have. So that's a no for me.
Not at home in the moo.
and Dr. Ram,
You'd be surprised.
when you were talking about that naivete, you kind of hit me in my spirit there, because I think that is my blessing and my curse.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because I genuinely think a lot of people should treat people like how I treat people. And I'm not one to, treat people nastily. I come to them with respect. I come with them with love. I come with them with kindness. And man, the world is just not like that.
Right.
And after my first wife passed away, there's a marriage covering that happens. And once she passed away, that covering was gone. But my naivete approach was still there. And dude, man, the world is still blowing my mind. I'm finding out things about what people do to each other, and it's almost done by rote now.
Right.
And it is
Mm-hmm.
shocking, and I can see how easily it is for individuals who have that um, uh, intentionality of core values that brings about a certain naivete. um, I can see, clearly how easily it is for them to, uh, fall into circumstances that they would probably not want to be in. So I feel you on that, brother, and I'm still learning. I'm still growing.
Yeah. Listen, I listen. It's so funny because it is something that happens very often, and I think it comes into this world where there are people in the world who look at things through rosy glasses, right? And we operate from the rosy idea, whereas we're not thinking that there's people who got fire glasses on. They ain't got rosy. They might have a rose tint on their glasses, but behind those glasses are some black eyes, eyeballs, pupils, and we don't know it because we looking at, hey, look, we got the same glasses and we're gonna operate in this way. And I think that, and you find out later that that's not how it is. And again, it's hard because it then causes you to not be who you are. That's where the difficulty of the whole thing comes in back. You are who you are. You're gonna be who you are. You're gonna do what you do. You're not doing things because what other people do. You're doing it because I do what I do. And you're finding out that.
But I can't say that because I'm like, I know kindness is a commodity, right? You got to understand if you don't know nothing else. Kindness is a thing. I pray it never become a rare thing. I always pray that it always be an accessible thing. Most people want it. This is the ironic part about it. Most people want it and even demand it, but not willing to give it, right? And so when you find kindness like a teeny, like my wife and stuff like that, I think we have a responsibility to protect it. Like people protect gold, which coincidentally is another commodity. And so kindness, I mean, the Bible says is more precious than gold. You understand? And so you are in no danger. You never was in any danger. You understand? Of decaying or being deprived of life, because of your kindness you would always have life. You understand? Because of your kindness there will always be regrowth. That's just gonna happen. You understand? But there also, because of your kindness, there will always be regret, not for you. I can tell you that part. There will always be regret for others. You understand? I've seen kind people go to their grave and still have people who've done them wrong trying to fight the people at the funeral who done them right.
Right.
But it's true. And so I'm like, I would tell anybody, I'm like, boy, one thing you will never regret in this world is doing the right thing or being the right thing. And so thank God for the right thing, because you would know it. The fact that you survived it and you continue to succeed in it, you know that God was the author of it, and so you're in no danger of it. The danger of anything is trying to convince everybody the wrong thing is the right thing. I don't give a damn what kind of narrative you put on it. You understand? You would. Always wanted to use this one right here. You can't put a lipstick on pigs or whatever. I always wanted to use that. I heard block users, so I don't. I always want to use it. But either way,
you got your opportunity. You can't put that lipstick on the pig.
But thanks, man, for everything, for sharing and everything. I really appreciate this conversation tonight.
Yeah, this was folks, as I'd like to say, people are listening. We just, watching, about to say, as we get ready to close out. These conversations are just conversations. They're not planned on it. They're planned with a topic, but we're really thinking about, building from what has been said and developing from what we're thinking right now in the think tank. I think that's the very important part. That is not like, we wrote down these things and I'm gonna say this, like born, and then you can say this. And Ed, here's a couple of lines for you to jump. That's not genuine to our experience and who we are, and even if they're agreeable or not agreeable, the idea is that we're hearing thoughts from fathers and men that you may have not heard in a genuine situation. I've heard a lot of people say all the stuff that they like to say that the guy caking, he talking, all the stuff he said, he caking to somebody, or he trying to be over aggressive. He's trying to be adversarial in his conversation about what he's saying. I think that in the think tank, we are more just like having a conversation and a very fair, easy conversation that people should have. Not looking for. We don't have no prize to win, no contract. We don't got no bets out. It's just, hey, this is my experience. This is what I heard. This is what I thought about. This is how kind of goes and what have you. So looking at that and really saying, hey, this is the kind of conversation we're gonna have. Again, I want to definitely thank all our veterans who their service they have done for the country, and just the service you have done for our community. You have proved to be the best, and many lives the best in the best of us who have given so much, so we can continue to live and be at some point we might not consider completely free, but at least free from outsiders to to take over us in one ways. And I know that right, it can be controversial how people feel about the military and what even with the things that are going on now. But I would say that for every man every man and woman who donned a uniform, and in the ancestry of the Buffalo Soldiers, I say that we send kudos to you. We thank you for your service, and we always be thankful that we had you to serve and protect us as a country and as a people, and represent us as a people. With that being said, guys, look, we had a great night tonight. Good conversation. I want to thank again our sponsors, Zeta Chi Q's, Jag Attorney at Law, and guys, you just repeat after me. We can get out of here. I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of honor.
I am
I
a
am a
man
man
of
of
honor.
honor.
I am.
I
I
am.
am.
I am.
I
I
am.
am.
I am a man of courage.
I am a
I am a
man of
man of
courage.
courage.
I am.
I
I
am.
am.
I am.
I
I
am.
am.
I am a man of respect.
I am
I
a
am a
man
man
of
of
respect.
respect.
Brothers, I say that I am.
I
I
am.
am.
I say that you are.
You
You
are.
are.
I say that we are
We
We
are
are.
championship
championship fathers.
fathers. With that being said, we hold our kids on our arm, our families on our back, and we see you here again next week, Tuesday, 7 o'clock, Fatherhood Think Tank. We'll have another interesting conversation, hopefully that affects fathers, for fathers, about fathers. With that being said, thank you for joining us tonight. We'll see you all back here again next week at the Fatherhood Think Tank. Thank you again, gentlemen, and good night.
Have,
Good night.
have a blessed Thanksgiving.